This is Detroit's Red Zone.
The Red Zone is the area where the 7 Mile Bloods operate. It's one of the most dangerous zip codes in America.
I'm in front of the Fox Theater in downtown Detroit, where the Democratic candidates for president will be taking the stage. Millions of people will be watching what's said on this debate stage. But in this very city, just miles from here, there are thousands of people living in poverty, dealing with violent neighborhoods so bad that they're afraid to leave their house. All of the Democratic candidates for president are going to be here in Detroit. What do you want to hear from them?
I want to hear how they're going to combat this violence.
Dhoruba Diallo is a community activist in Detroit. His organization, Black Man Stand, aims to disrupt violence in the city.
We can't focus on money, we can't focus on community, we can't focus on excelling at nothing if we don't put the pistols down and invest in peace.
You can put stiffer gun penalties out here, but if you don't attack the actual problem, that's not going to stop the killing. You attack any other issue aggressively, you know, so why not attack this issue? And one of the biggest reasons is because it doesn't play any other community but the urban community.
I'm pretty sure everybody out here has lost somebody to these streets. Whether it be east, west, north, south, it don't matter.
One of the big talks right now is reparations. And to me, if you just dropped a bunch of money into a war zone, it's gonna make it a worse war zone. You want to vote? Come into the hood, listen to what we gotta say.
Don't it feel good to hear no gunshots? No sirens? No police walking up on us? I know it feels good to me.
What are we doing here right now?
We are conducting Peace in the Zone. It's an event that we put together to bring two different sides or two different groups from the Red Zone together.
So the Red Zone is the area where the 7 Mile Bloods operate. It's one of the most dangerous zip codes in America.
He's convinced rival gang members of the Bloods to come together.
The two sides didn't want to meet at first. They was like, nah, I don't mess around with them. We appreciate what you're trying to do. But as we kept talking, they were like, well, you know, maybe we should try this to see how it works. It's unheard of because people just don't reconcile.
Whole streets! Come on, let's get it.
Other factions in that area have reached out to the OGs in that hood and was like, you know, maybe we can do something.
Y'all in the heart. Y'all in the heart of the Red Zone.
Jumaine is a member of the Bloods.
Man, not even 6 months ago, bro, I was talking about busting your head open for a bag.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I wake up one morning, bro, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, this shit not right no more.
I can't do this anymore.
You know what I'm saying? I'm tired of it. Like my brother said, I'm tired.
So there were guys who typically you'd be beefing with that you saw today and celebrated with.
Yeah.
What was that like?
At first it was a little weird, but once they felt that energy, man, they felt that positive vibe, you feel me? You can't help but to attract to it.
On the streets! On the streets!
To cut the beef, and that's what this shit is about. Cutting the beef. Senseless beef. You know what I'm saying? There's no way in hell that all these different bloods, all these different gangs should not be with each other.
Tell me about what it was like growing up here.
It wasn't peaches and cream at all. You know, I had a mother and a father that was drug addicts. You know, I found love in the streets. That's why I became a blood.
I think there are going to be some people watching this who don't understand what it's like to grow up here, and they don't understand why you would decide to become a blood. What would you want to say to them?
It's a jungle, and we forced to live in this jungle. And we not savages. We made to be savages. We forced to be savages because of the circumstances that we in. They not doing nothing with our community. Look at it, bro. Like, don't this look like a jungle to you?
Hey, man, we done came a long way, man. It's a beautiful thing to see shit evolve and change like this, man. See everybody come together. You know what I'm saying? It's a wonderful thing, baby.
Life in Detroit has been difficult for decades, and there's much more than just one reason why. Hundreds of thousands of people have fled this city. Abandoned houses can be found all over. There's endemic racial segregation. The public school system has lost crucial funding. But worst of all, gun violence plagues this community on a near-daily basis.
It all intersects. But at the end of the day, it's hard to focus on the other stuff when you're ducking bullets or you worried about your child not being able to walk to school. It's definitely an everyday thing. It's gotten to the point where people have gotten used to it, where you hear gunshots and instead of ducking or running, you were trying to identify what kind of gun it is. That's not normal. it's almost like we live in a war zone. And when people hear about the violence, they just like, oh, another shooting.
It's that common.
It's that common. Like, whenever my kids are out of my sight, I'm terrified. A stray bullet can come through the house at any moment.
It's been a particularly violent summer here. 8 people were killed and 11 injured in shootings during Memorial Day weekend alone.
Summer in Detroit, wow. You know, we go through 4 seasons, so like, oh, the summer's here, you know, good. But then it's like, the summer's here, damn. The shootings increase and the killings increase because people are outside.
Dhoruba is attending a meeting of Force Detroit. Their goal is to connect with people before they commit a crime. According to a report compiled by Force, each shooting death in Detroit costs an estimated $1.6 million.
So we have strategies for peace that are much cheaper but require investment in people. The same people that you might not want to have conversations with.
The first thing we have to do, like I said, is change the mentality. And if you can show them different, then they'll be different.
In my opinion, if we can all come together every weekend and we can become familiar with each other's faces and things like that, you're not going to let something happen to them or you're not going to do something to that person, ideally, right?
And I think that this is so important for us to continue to get out there and let people know we're here to create peace. And there are resources available to help you do the same.
It's so much senseless violence in this city daily. It's just swept under the rug. I'm sorry, but it's another dead. It's okay. Let them keep killing each other. One less on the street. Because we're all animals in their eyes.
We can't keep looking to outside sources because nobody's coming to save us but us.
This work is personal for Dhoruba. Just last year, his brother was shot and killed in a robbery.
I was the last person to see him alive, maybe 10 minutes before. He was shot twice in his head, once in his neck, twice in his chest. Pushed out of the car like a piece of meat. And he wasn't a piece of meat. He was my only brother. I don't want anybody else to go through what I went through, like watching my mom just curled up on the floor, screaming in agony, and there was nothing I could do.
So, what's this over here?
These are lots that we acquired. We want to do after-school programming. We want to do summer programming to try to give these kids something to do. And when you have a brick and mortar, you can bring people inside of those doors, and then you can start to try to, you know, corral them, galvanize them, get them introduced to certain resources, which brings the younger kids up correctly, so you don't have to fix them when they become adults, right. Once they become damaged. If you can get them before they get damaged, then you can kind of change the culture, so to speak.
And do you have a name for the house?
It's just gonna be called Black Man Stand Village.
I love it.
Black Man Stand Village.
What do you want? Peace. Our street.
Our street. Ain't nobody coming to save us. Ain't nobody coming to help us. We got to come together, get together, stay together, go after the resources, and fix it right here.
In Detroit, over the last 3 years, over 100,000 families have had their water shut off. I can't touch water or drink water or be in contact with water without thinking about somebody not having it. My name is Monica Lewis Patrick, and I am the president and CEO of We the People of Detroit. We're committed to the human right to water. Low-income people in Detroit are having a hard time paying their water bill, and they're getting their water shut off. When the water department comes out to shut off the water, they mark it with a blue line, and for many of the residents, it's known as the blue line of shame. Some people's water is only off for a matter of days. Others' water has been off as long as 2 to 3 years. The issue of not having access to water is a really big deal. You can lose custody of your children. You can lose your property. You can also lose your quality of health. It just doesn't sit well with me. Our job is really to meet that human need. Our services are for those families that can't afford to get their water turned back on. Our water primarily is donated, and then we store it in one of our water stations, and then it is distributed out to the community based on need. The deliveries that we do every week make sure that the client has enough water on an emergency basis to do some basic things, flush the toilet, take care of their basic hygiene, prepare their food.
Thank you so much.
Over the last year, we've served over 1,000 families. Water can unite us, and so it's out of belovedness that we approach our water work. I always like to say I didn't choose water, water chose me.